This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Good morning. My name is John. This is Puka. Good morning, Poots. Judy is, this is Sober Mind. Here we have grown folk conversations about life in general, sobriety, and mental health. So you'll have to forgive me if I have a slow start. I'm going solo today. Nessa does not talk much. So Judy is out of town, unfortunately, attending a funeral. So she's doing good. It's not an immediate family member. It's her aunt's brother's wife. So, but she was very close to her. Her name was Debbie, and may she rest in peace. So, all right, so I'm flying solo. This is difficult for me to do because, the show is about having a dialogue with my wife, so it's pretty tough to do when she's not here. So I may stumble, I may fumble, but I'll get through it. So today's discussion is going to be about my decades-long adventures as a functioning alcoholic, if you will. So what is a functioning alcoholic? There's a lot of different definitions of it, but in short, a functioning alcoholic is one that can drink to excess, essentially be an alcoholic, yet still function with their professional and personal lives. Function, I figured out how to dissect that word, and it's interesting because I think it's almost an oxymoron being a functioning alcoholic, in a sense that I cruised through life, but I barely functioned. Well, now that I'm articulating that, I guess it's I guess functioning alcoholics are essentially faking it while they're trying to make it. So let me give you a quick interpretation of a day in the life of. For me, I noticed the functional portion of my alcoholism starting probably around 2007. I'm sure it was sooner than that, but around 2006, 2007, that's when I started to really become aware of it. And I say become aware of it because before that, I was in my 20s and always sort of knew that I had a distinct problem with moderation. But I think we can all attest that when you're in your 20s, it's sort of well, whatever. I'll figure it out later on. I got plenty of years left. But in 2007, I was working in more of a professional capacity, so I noticed it a lot. So my days would end up being something like this. I'll start with the Monday mornings. Monday, Odie, good morning. Monday, I would wake up and it was always the shakes, getting into the shower, and then lightly vomiting bile, more than likely. Sorry to be disgusting, but that's what happens to us alcoholics. It's just how it rolls. So I would shake around in the shower for a bit and then get out, brush my teeth. While I was brushing my teeth, I'd always be thinking to myself, man, I hope no one can smell the lingering booze on me. I remember one particular morning I felt ashamed of myself when Judy was still in bed. She worked a different shift than I, so before I walked out the door, I gave her a kiss in bed, and she said, "Hey, be sure to put on some cologne." And I said, "Do I stink?" She said, "Well, no, you smell like beer." And I was like, "Oh." That hit home right then. I'll never forget that statement. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed because of something that I've done and I could control it. But anyway, so I would get to work, and all the while I would always make sure that I wouldn't. Okay, so let's talk about the mental effects of what's happening right now. A lot of us who drank in excess like that, we would, you're talking to someone in the elevator and you generally can't tell unless you look at their shaky hands. But I would always, so you're not drunk, you're not hammered at work, but you're coming down off of alcohol perpetually, always, 7 days a week is what's happening. But I would always make it a conscious decision to make sure that I stayed a couple arms length away from people in the elevator. And I wouldn't talk aggressively so that I wasn't exhausting air from my mouth too much, if that makes sense, because I didn't want anyone to smell the booze because I could smell it. So get through the workday. Progressively throughout the day, we start to feel a little bit better, depending on your consumption levels. I think I kept mine in check pretty decently around that time. But so while I'm floundering around during the day, there's always this back of my mind going, you have to stop this. This is out of control. But towards the latter part of the day and the anticipation of being able to go home and drink another beer as soon as I got home would always sort of negate that feeling of, oh man, I have to stop this. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the anticipatory feeling of getting off work, getting home, and cracking open a beer would smush the guilt feeling. So I would get home, I would open a beer, I'd wait for Judy to get home. By the time Judy would get home, I would have had, 4 to 6 beers, which at that stage is not really a big deal. I'm not drunk. And then Judy would get home and she would crack open beers and we would drink until about 9 or 10 o'clock at night and then go to bed. Would we go to bed drunk? No, not necessarily. Until we got to about Thursday or Friday. That's when we would increase the volume. So come Friday night, it was full steam ahead. We would consume in great excess. Wake up Saturday mornings, often not just hungover, but often still drunk. And we would struggle through the morning and then, make ourselves a Bloody Mary, go out to lunch with friends and continue drinking. Sundays were quite difficult for me because I would find myself trying to figure out how to moderate then. That's when so around 2007, 2008, it started to become a real mental gymnastic exercise to figure out how to moderate my behavior with the alcohol. There was always okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'm starting to get a little bit drunk. I need to go to work tomorrow. So I'm only going to have 3 more. And it's difficult for me to talk about this because it makes me still feel a little bit ashamed and perplexed at the fucking power of alcohol. There was hundreds of times where I said, okay, I'll have X amount more and I won't have any more after 5, 6 o'clock. But I found myself at that fucking refrigerator cracking open another beer and constantly rationalizing and saying, okay, after this, it'll only be 2 more. Okay, 2 more after this. And if we would start to run out of beer or wine, it was a little bit panicky in a sense that we would have to make sure that we weren't too drunk, especially on Saturdays or Sundays, to go back to the store. We always had to make sure that the priority of the refrigerator was enough beer to where we could enjoy ourselves and not have to drive out and get more. So, yeah. So that was it from a Monday through Sunday perspective. The Sundays were always disheartening to me for the reasons I said, because I couldn't. There's always I'll just have one more, just one more, just one more. So, and then just waking up time after time with the same feeling. It was, you guys have heard me say it before. It's just, I would gently whimper in my pillow and just say, I have to fucking quit this. And I did that for decades. I just kept doing it over and over and over again. So, well, fast forward to 2021, August 30th. That was it. Judy and I had enough. Our souls just couldn't take it anymore. So I'm glad we came to that realization, and here we are. But let's talk more about the functioning portion of it. Other good examples that people in my shorts comments have asked was, well, how did you, because, okay, we always have this picture of the quintessential alcoholic. For us, it all looks different. And you generally don't visualize that alcoholic as the guy wearing the shirt and tie, being a good boss, and making things happen in a very important industry. But that was me. That's the alcoholic. I did do well. I was a good person. I was a good leader, but I could have done so much more. I know I could have, because being in that perpetual hangover to anticipating drinking, there's no real moment for me to have done any spiritual adjustment and spiritual nurturing and healing. So my alcoholism got in the way of my professional growth and trajectory, as well as my personal life. So I don't know. I'm very content now with where we are in our personal lives. I'm very happy and content with where Judy and I are with our relationship. It has really blossomed and grown to a different area than I ever imagined that it would since we both got sober. But I'm struggling to figure out how my alcoholism hampered any part of my personal growth and life development. And I guess that's what makes the functional portion of us functional. I'll have to think about that some more. I try not to do the woulda, shoulda, coulda game, but I wonder if my life would be better or if it'd be worse. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Yeah. So that said, with that whole bundle of the cycle of the waking up and different, Lisa, it would be different. Who knows in this weird matrix of life what that even means. So, where this all affected my mental health was this. I've spoken so much here about my always on brain and the constant rumination that happens in my mind. When I was not drinking, so when I was in the woe is me phases and the regret phases, the regret and the despair would always beat the shit out of my self-esteem. So I've had self-esteem issues ever since I was a child. And I've documented this many times on this channel. The majority of that, obviously, if not all of it, stemmed from the lack of nurturing and the abundant abuse from my mother and lack of a father figure in my life. So drinking would always get me to a point to where I would feel good about myself while I was slightly intoxicated. Have you had enough, Nessa? Am I boring you? Okay, calm down. It would make me feel well. It would make me feel especially confident in social situations. So, yeah, now that I'm thinking about that too, I don't think I gave myself the opportunity to show people my genuine self ever. Not until the last 3 years now. I would like to, at the time, have believed that I was being sincere and showing people the genuine John. But the genuine John for those decades was the guy that showed up to a dinner or a party and was loose and joking and carefree. But the only reason that version of John showed up was because John and Judy had pre-lubricated themselves already before any of these functions. Not getting hammered, but definitely having a couple drinks before we would drive to the event or drive to meet our friends. And then the majority of these social interactions that we had, they're always based around alcohol by our own design. It's another thing I was thinking about when I was trying to understand how to articulate this discussion, was that us alcoholics, this is another part of our functioning. We obviously don't architect a life around sobriety, because that would be fucking dumb. We inject ourselves into society that has our same belief system and weird delusional non-judgment around our drinking. So we would envelop ourselves in acquaintances that had pretty much the same problem that we did. And that's how we would function. Judy and I would often come home and tell ourselves, man, did you see how drunk fucking what's her name got, or what's his name? Man, what an idiot. You know, I'm embarrassed by the fact that this is after we drove home drunk and then continued to drink at home. We are sitting in our ivory tower judging other people for their behavior. Fucking wackadoodle that our alcoholic brain does that. But that's just how the alcoholism and the ego sort of have that interplay with each other. Being able to judge someone for their misappropriation of the drink made us feel like we really had it in control. Yeah, I never really thought about it that way. That's an alcoholic for sure. So, and then fast forward to that. That's why for that little nugget that I just talked about, those engagements and about how we architect that design of relationships. That's why when we quit drinking, all of those relationships just turn into vapor. They go away. Not because they were bad friends or we didn't want to associate with them anymore, but it's because we didn't associate with that lifestyle anymore. So it goes away. Yeah. I do miss a lot of those rituals. It's the ritual. It's the being able to go to my favorite bar and sit down and order a beer and have a conversation with an acquaintance. But that's it. That's where the fantasy shatters. And that is because that one beer in that conversation turns into a drunken night and driving home drunk and waking up with the regret and the promise of, or the statement of, I can't do this anymore, and just cycle after cycle after cycle. The ritual starts it. The ritual is part of the function of the functioning alcoholic. And I think that's why it makes it so tantalizing to stay in that cycle and that circle, is because my mind romanticizes and falls in love with the ritual. It's very gratifying. Hell, right now thinking about it, it makes me feel pretty good. And so that I think is a little bit unhealthy. I'm going to have to dissect that later on. But I think it's because I'm talking about it so in depth. But just right up the road, there's my favorite home brew shop and bar, and that's where a lot of ritual happened. Yeah. There's the getting ready on an early Saturday morning, waking up with a hangover, but getting the smoker ready, getting all of the brew equipment going, and then watching our friends trickle into the garage, bringing beer with them and food. And we're all sitting around having a really good social experience. It's almost caveman-like, but that's a good picture. That's, the sun is shining. We have the smoker going with meats and vegetables, and we're brewing a beer, and that's the vision I have, is our friends are walking in, hugging us, telling jokes, smiling, laughing. Hey, John, I brought this. Check out this beer. Where do you want me to put it? I'll put it in the fridge over there. I'll crack one open in a minute. Oh, what is this food you brought? Oh, I love this cheese. And yeah, let me have one of those beers. And then several hours later, we're all drunk. And that's where that ritual now seems fuzzy. That part, after that initial hugging and joyous get-together part, I'm having a hard time seeing what the rest of the interactions for all of those times was. I think there was times, there was times when then conversations turned zesty, too passionate, too opinionated, because now people are drunk and getting into a different mindset. And then there was the anxiety of letting people drive home all the time. Oh, it's like the commercials we see, right? It's, oh, John, I'm fine. But I remember drinking a beer and patiently waiting to get a text from that person. It was such a relief when I'd get a, hey, John, I'm home. I'm doing okay. I'd be like, oh, thank God. I can never let that guy drive that drunk again. Hello, Philip from Serbia. Welcome. Odie, one of your countrymen is here. So, yeah, there's that behavior of the function too, and then saying, I can never let that happen again. And then those same people next weekend or whatever, especially during the spring and summer where we live in the Midwest USA, that ritual just would start again on those Saturday mornings. Like clockwork. And then the same people would drive home drunk. I never understood how to navigate that. It's very difficult. On the flip side, we would end up being over at people's houses doing the same stuff, and we would drive home drunk. I didn't realize this functioning discussion would be turning into how many times I drove drunk. I just did one of my YouTube shorts about that the other day. I've said it on here before, I cannot believe how it was either one of us that would drive. It was either Judy or I that would drive. And there was this really fucking weird measure of how super drunk are you versus how super drunk am I? And it was just one of us would drive home and then wake up the next morning and try to put it together of what the fuck did we do? We can never do that again. Again, we've said this shit 100 times. And it was, where's my phone? Where's your phone? Fuck, where's the keys? And it was just still drunk, scramble out to the kitchen to look out to see if the car was there and it wasn't fucking wrapped around a human body or something. And then go out into the vehicle and see our phones and purse and wallet and everything, windows down. Just having zero recollection of how we got there. That's wildly frightening. There was so many times where I would sit down and I would dig and dig and dig into trying to gather the details of what happened 12 hours ago of, oh, fuck, did we get pulled over? No, we would be in jail. Did we get into any kind of an accident? Did we hurt anybody? Did I fucking say something? Did I punch someone? Going through and checking the phone to see if there's any wild text messages, to checking my text message to see what I texted. There was a bunch of those too, like, oh my God, I can't believe I fucking said that. Or making drunk Facebook posts. There's the immediate delete. It's too late. Fucking 80 people have already seen it, which is shameful. But my mind would play it off of, well, I mean, all of our friends know how we all get when we're drunk, so that's the expectation. It's another rationalization. We could all make a book of rationalizations that us alcoholics do. So that was the wash, rinse, repeat cycle. So going all the way back to the self-esteem portion that I brought up. That is the alcohol. I never intentionally drank to make myself more confident, but it would just always end up putting me there. So the irony of the self-esteem and the functioning alcoholism is that I would drink because I felt bad. And then I felt bad because I drank. Because the internal conflict was always that battle of, don't fucking do this again. You know it's not good for your spirit and soul. Fuck it. I'm just gonna have a drink. It's just a constant battle. I'm not gonna get fucking hammered this time. I'm only gonna have a couple. God damn. How many times I fucking thought or said that? It's mind-boggling, man. The fucking power of this disease is ridiculous. It makes me feel like a fucking dumb chimpanzee. A chimpanzee is probably smarter than me when I'm doing rationalization of alcohol, but it's like, what are you doing, man? The constant calculus of, if I do this, then I'll do this, and it'll be okay. Here's what you can do. And then waking up going, what the fuck was any of that about? Why did you do that again? And then okay, that's it. And then stand in the shower, drinking a beer and doing it all over again, over and over and over again. I think Einstein said that. That's the definition of insanity. So then it's the self-esteem hit for me. It made me feel bad about myself. And then that self-deprecation would morph into depression. And that depression would then grow tales of anxiety. And the anxiety, the fear of now needing to go into a public space and see other people would grow unless I entertained one of two options, and that was either not go to these public events, which would immediately give me a sense of relief. This is the problem with anxiety, that the more we allow that reciprocation of the event. Okay, so I got invited to a wedding. It's building up. There's too many people. I don't want to go. I'm getting dressed, getting ready to go to the wedding. I can either drink and get drunk. Fine. Then it's kind of the fix for it. But now that becomes the foundational norm of self-medication. Now I'm drinking to ease anxiety in order to function in society. Or the other option is to say, fuck it, I'm not going to the event. Take my clothes off, get into some comfortable clothes. Now the problem with that behavior is you're constantly rewarding yourself for not putting yourself into that position. And now you're building a constant stepping ladder of anxiety relief. I said that badly. So what it means is this. When I first got sober, I started to develop a form of agoraphobia, which meant I did not want to fucking leave the house. The only relief that would give myself was, oh, thank God I don't have to leave the house. So then the reward for that continues to be such, and that is, I'll just feel fine as long as I never interact with society again. So when I started seeing my therapist, there was the immediate, absolutely fucking not. You have got to go interact with society because that is the cure for us human beings. And once I started to do that, go back out, I had a hard time. I'd have to go to the grocery store wearing earpods and listening to a podcast or something because I would get anxious just going into a store because now I wasn't drunk. Now I was not able to drink anymore when I got sober. So I couldn't handle that. Now I had to rebuild the foundation of interacting with society, which is insane. Sorry, it's not insane. It's my mental health issue that a lot of us have. So then that got better. But I noticed, okay, I'm going to do my exposure therapy today, which means I would go to the grocery store and I would walk down every aisle and I would say hello to people. There's a lot of times when my heart would start racing just thinking about going to the store. And so the immediate fix to that was to say, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'll go to the store. I'll go wash my truck or whatever at 2 a.m. I'll go do it when there's no human beings around and I don't have to interact with society anymore. And that's not going to work. That just constantly puts you back step by step by step by step with avoidance. So Philip has a couple questions here. Any advice for sober people who deal with the functional alcoholic? Dang, Philip, that's a really profound question. I don't have any words of advice for that. Maybe Lisa in the chat does, but I've always dealt with a functional alcoholic, which is my wife, and we always dealt with each other. So unfortunately, the best way to deal with that is what my sister-in-law did. And she, here in the United States, we have a group called Al-Anon. And she got help from community members from that group. So I don't know how to answer that, man. All you can do, I think, is lead and model the way and show them that it's okay to be sober. I know that sounds easier said than done, but if you could go back in time, what would you like to hear from a sober colleague, or what treatment would you like? Oh, I love that one. Oh, hey, babe. Judy has joined. If you could go back in time, what would you like to hear from a sober colleague, or what treatment would you like? Damn, Philip, that made me a little teary-eyed. I think it would have been beneficial for me to have a close friend sit me down and just say, hey man, John, I think you got a drinking problem. I really do. If I would have heard that, I think it would have given me a completely different trajectory. Or it might not have, Philip. I might have abandoned that friend. That's the hypocrisy of me now. And that is, sober me would have appreciated someone saying, John, you're an alcoholic, you need some help. But at the time, I don't know how I would have reacted to that. There might have been a lot of resentment. I would like to think not, but I think the reality of me at that time was that I would have made an excuse to abandon that friend. Yeah, that's probably more of the reality. So, Philip, Lisa says, agree with Al-Anon here. And there's also books and websites for people who are loved ones of addicts and alcoholics. Yeah, that's a tough situation. So, yeah, looking back on it now, Philip, to answer your question, my current sober me would have said, yeah, I would have loved to have had a friend sit me down while I was in a vulnerable moment and just say, hey, I'm concerned about you, man. I think you have a drinking problem and I want to see you get better. I know that, John, you are better than this disease that you have. And then I think, so this is, now we're getting into an intervention, Philip, and that is, you know, if someone were to lay it all out and say, John, here's the things you've done that are not good, and here's the destructive path that you're going down, I think I would have just turned into an emotional well and maybe been able to look at myself differently. I think Judy and I struggled with this as well when we've talked about it in the past, in that we should have done that to each other 1,000 times. But we never did because we were both so afraid of what would happen. Philip, that's my story, is that Judy, my wife, she's out of town right now. Her and I got sober. We had a discussion. We said we can't do this anymore. Our souls are getting destroyed. I can't fucking take it anymore. I can't drink anymore because I don't know how to drink in moderation. So her and I made the commitment to quit drinking cold sober right then and there, and we haven't touched a drink since. But going back to that question, a colleague or a loved one, if Judy were to have sat me down many years ago and said, my love, you have a profound drinking problem, and I'm very worried about you. Man, I would have really needed to hear that, but unfortunately, that's the same thing that I would have needed to tell her. So, yeah. It's difficult being in that kind of relationship because we love each other so much, but we're so afraid to have that pointed conversation with each other until we did. And we have much more fruitful conversations now. So we got through it. And I'm never going to sit back and say, oh, I God damn it, I wish we should have done this 20 years ago or whatever. We can't go through life like that. So we're here now, and we're doing a really good job. We've had some breakthrough moments from my perspective on our relationship. We still have work to do with ourselves, and it's tough sometimes watching each other go through these cycles of growth, because we're here to help each other, but at the same time, we're a little bit busy taking care of ourselves. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Philip. Philip, good job. First time on the show, and you made me fucking cry in front of everybody. So there's that. No, I thank you. That was a very profound, introspective moment for me. I had to think about that. Yeah. I don't wish someone would have told me that I had a drinking problem many years ago. Fuck, for all I know, someone probably did, and I don't remember that. But yeah, having a friend or a loved one have that discussion with you, it's tough for them to do that as well. Yeah, so Lisa says it can sound counterintuitive, but one of the first things recommended for the non-addict alcoholic is to take care of self. Absolutely, got to take care of self. With the focus on health and wellness in your life, it not only helps you, but can also be a model for those who are using. Yes, modeling the way, Lisa, is important. So everything I'm talking about, and thank you, Philip, for the awesome, profound question. This December on this show, we will have Michelle and her husband, and a lot of these things that we talk about. Michelle is what I would consider the unfortunate beneficiary of dealing with all of that shit. I don't want to tell her story because it's her story to tell, but I can give a little snippet of it. Philip, she lived with an alcoholic that was functional but borderline dysfunctional. He drank monumental amounts of whiskey, and she watched him battle and suffer for many decades. So she's got a pretty interesting story to tell and how she handled that. I'm very proud of her. I'm proud of you, Michelle. And you know, I'll never deny the fact that I said this when Guy quit drinking. I told Michelle, I said, there's no way it's gonna last. There ain't no fucking way in hell. Not if, but when Guy gets drunk again, you're gonna regret this, Michelle. I can't remember what the discussion was, but man, Guy turned himself into a human being that I never saw before, and I never thought was possible. So anyway, I digress. That's my story of being a functional alcoholic. I think real quick before I wrap it up, I think it's important to me to also note that well, you know what? I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I was about to start telling you that even though I was a functional alcoholic, I was a good person and I took care of things. But it doesn't fucking matter. It's neither here nor there. I think that was my alcoholic mind trying to throw out a rationalization again, or maybe a cherry on top to let people know that are watching this that John was a bad person, but he took care of stuff. So it doesn't fucking matter. I changed. My wife changed. My father-in-law changed. Other people in this family have changed. There's a close person in our family that recently gave up a long battle with prescription medication. So very proud of her. Oh, Chet, welcome to the show. Chet says a job and didn't have driver's license. I was isolated in a little room in an apartment. I got high on my nerves medication. The next 2 days, I tried getting into treatment. Anyway, powerful stories from everybody. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. Last week we had a technical issue. Odie, here's what happened. There was a fucking Windows update that changed my input devices to maximum volume, and I had them on half before. And then I would have my OBS slider to max. So where I'm going with that is I wasn't really in the mood to do a lot of discussion last week anyway. So when I had a technical issue, I just said, screw it. So anyway, that's that. Yeah, that's why your ears exploded. I hope it sounds good now. Okay. Judy, my love, thank you so much. You see Puka's keeping your chair warm. I tried to put the headphones on her. She wasn't having it. I put the mic in front of her and all she did was lick it for a sec. So that was awkward. So I appreciate her giving me some company though. I miss you. Lisa, we miss you too. Odie, thank you so much for the continued support. Love seeing you on here. Lisa, it's great seeing you. Mom, Michelle, good seeing you guys. Philip, welcome to the show. Please join again every Saturday. Feel free to ask questions. Chet, welcome to the show. Thank you everybody for your continued support. We are about to hit 3,000 subscribers. Nancy, nice to see you. Yeah. All right. Just got a smile on my face. I love you all. Love you all very much. Thank you for the support. Okay. Join us next Saturday for another gripping tale of mental health and alcoholism. We're going to do a video reaction because Judy will be back and we'll have some more discussions. Be patient with yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. You are very loved. Thank you so much for the support. Continue on with your mental health journeys. Try to be happy. Try not to be anxious. Remember, anxiety shrinks your world. Try to make it expand somehow. Okay. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.